Sue just recently joined us on the education committee for VSTE. We used to have Barbara Huth that was on there, and Barbara said you're going to love Sue, and she's correct. Sue brings a lot of energy and passion. She also is probably sitting in nice weather. So she's out in California. We're here in Virginia going through the cold weather again right now. But anyway, Sue graciously agreed to go ahead and talk to us this evening about news and media literacy, critical, not cynical. And I'm really looking forward to it. So without further ado, Sue, go ahead and take it over.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. Thank you, Karen. I am just so pleased to be here. And I'm so glad that when Barbara had to step out, she offered me this wonderful opportunity to meet with you all. I know we are a small group, and I don't know if you have ever seen me present before, but I am a very informal person. So by all means, feel free to use that chat. Feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions or if there's anything that I can do to make this any more interesting or any more helpful for you. That is what I do all day long. I'll be doing my best to watch the chat as well, and then share a little bit about who we are, what we do, and what are some of the resources that we have. Are any of you familiar? You're all familiar with Common Sense? Like, give me something in the chat. Yes, Emily, you know us back and forth. You could probably do this presentation for me. Yes, Tim, what about you? Yes, no. Okay, got a thumbs up. All right. And I'm sure some of you guys might know us, love Common Sense. All right, thank you. And so what it is that I'm going to share is some of the content that we have around news and media literacy, which has been pretty hot right now in terms of some of the content that teachers have been requesting. And so in this time of a lot of politics and a lot of requests for how to teach skills in the classroom related to news and media literacy, even talks about book banning, even conversations about, all kinds of stuff. This is the kind of skills that I have been working on with teachers. So my name is Sue, as said. I'm a senior program manager for Common Sense. I am in Los Angeles. It is still light out here. I will say it was 40 degrees this morning. And when I woke up, so I did have I'm from the Midwest, so I'm used to a little bit of Midwestern chill, but my background is, I was a scientist for a while as a biochemist and a molecular and cell biologist, and then went into public health and studied a lot of adolescent health, did some research for a while on education technology, really, and was part of a huge longitudinal study in Chicago, where I was for many years working on an early literacy program. And I also am a parent. I have two kids that are 18 and 15. And so I'm in the middle of it. And I also started a group with some folks here in Southern California a few years ago called Equity in Action CA. And so I will give you guys the slides for all of this. And let me do that right now. I'm going to stop the share real quick, and I'm going to pull the slides and let you guys have all of these resources so that and then I don't know if there's a way for you to share these when you grab if you're able to share the recording link, but here are all the resources for today. I'm putting them in the chat. So that is all the resources for today and everything that you will need. And I will begin coming back to the slideshow screen share. I talk aloud a lot. Okay, so that's all my resources for today. If you're interested in any of these hyperlinks or anything that I'm sharing, everything should be open and available to you. I also have included in this time, taking some cues from VSTE and your EdTech shorts. We have been creating our own shorts at Common Sense for a little while now, not wanting to be too intrusive on the professional development needs of teachers and not wanting to make folks come to an in-person event or a live event. We've been trying to do a lot of these short videos that are informational to give teachers exactly what they need right on time. So here's just a little snippet of some of the content that we've done within the last month related to social media basics for parents, or parenting in the digital age. Or this week we did some on some of the games and interactives. So these are 10-minute videos about how to get started with some of our resources that are outside of the curriculum, that are less than 15 minutes for the curriculum. So if you're interested in getting started related to digital citizenship, we have quick activities or games and interactives, and these are quick PDs for quick dig sit. So that is the theme. And if that's all you need, and this agenda right here, then you're good to go, right? My agenda and all the links and resources are all right here within. If you clicked on this is a hyperlink, and it'll bring you right to all the resources that I'm sharing today. So everything that I'm sharing today is all linked within that agenda that is hyperlinked right here on this screen. So if you're having any trouble finding that, let me know. But I just wanted to warm up and ask you all to do a quick activity with me. I know you're going to participate a little bit. What I'm going to have you do, I pulled these from my Twitter feed yesterday. I just pulled 4 screenshots from my Twitter feed yesterday, and I'm going to ask you, there is no right or wrong answer. I want you to pick the one that doesn't belong. Read these 4 and pick the one that doesn't belong, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and tell me your reasoning in the chat. Oh, look at this. Should I have brought some music with me? I could sing for you all. All right, Emily, why 4? Why 4?
To me, the other 3 were news and government related, and 4 was more social entertainer related.
All right. So everybody's in agreement with 4. I was going to pick 2. 2 is the only one without any males in it. It's the only one that does not have any pictures of a male person in it. And it's posted by a woman too, by the way. Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer with this. It's just a matter of sitting down, reading a headline, giving me your reaction. It could get deeper, it could get more shallow. It's just a way to bring news into the classroom and just do a quick analysis. What do you notice, right? What is your reaction to this? And so it's just one that I pull up as a quick warm up. Usually it's not so overwhelmingly, everybody feels the same way. And so I ask people to get creative sometimes and give me a reason why something else doesn't work. But yes, I totally see that. Everybody loves Spider-Man. All right, so thank you. This is a study that we did at Common Sense a few years ago about teens and the way that they engage with news. And where do teens get their news? At least a few times a week, and many of them are getting them from social media, from YouTube, from print and online, directly from the New York Times or directly from BuzzFeed. And so teens clearly prefer a visual medium for the kind of content that they're consuming. And I don't know if you maybe have seen this before, but the Stanford History and Education Group, SHEG does they did a study a few years ago about student civic online reasoning. This was in 2019, and they found that students were unprepared to judge the difference between, opinions and news, or they couldn't quite understand what was, junk from quality content. And so this was very disheartening when this came out. And I think a lot of teachers that I talk with, agree, Karen, most teachers see the importance of talking about news and media literacy, but they're so scared to bring this into the classroom. I don't know if this is the case in Virginia, but I would imagine that, here in California, maybe, I have teachers who say the exact same thing. And I hear this a lot. They say that it's difficult to discuss current events and politics in their classroom because they fear retaliation from their students, from their parents, from their school board. They don't want to be political. They don't want to cause a riot, and they don't want to get fired. So to me, my answer to this and what I bring to teachers is we don't necessarily need to have the answer to every piece of fake news that comes across our desk. We don't necessarily need to combat against our students and feel like we are on 2 different sides. What we need to do is focus on the skills that are necessary to discern good information from bad information and why news literacy is important. So if we, and I take the same approach to a lot of the things that we talk about, when it comes to online, reasoning or critical thinking, and even apps, when parents ask me about oh my gosh, tell me about the latest apps that I need to be aware of for my teenager. If we played that game, we would be, I was trying to find a whack-a-mole gif, but I thought this one was just much cuter. So I pulled this one. This is what it feels like, right? Exactly. Yeah. So it feels like you are constantly having to arm yourself with something to combat fake news. So instead, I'm saying, teach the skills, and then work together with your students to do some analysis so that you're on the same team. So here are some of the basic foundational pieces that that we teach at Common Sense and News Literacy Project, and some of the folks at Stanford History and Education Group. We have, I believe that like these three pieces are just kind of the start, understanding that news and media is created by humans, right? We can all agree that it's created by humans, and all of us have some sort of bias, but good journalists do their best to recognize and mitigate their bias. As consumers of information, we all have our own biases, and our brains seek to confirm what we believe. But oftentimes with social media and with the ways in which we consume our content, with the channels that we choose, we often are served content that affirms what we believe, right? So it meets our expectations. So we have to be aware of all three of these things, no matter where we are, no matter what we believe. So oftentimes I have students, or if I have teachers in a session, we start by looking at what is the purpose of journalism. And I don't know if you guys ever watch PBS NewsHour, or if you're familiar with some of these folks. We're going to watch a quick video about what journalists do and what their intention is. And I'm going to escape out. I'm going to make sure you all can hear my stuff. All right. So I'm going to screen share with optimizing for video clip. Sorry, folks. I'm doing my best here. So we're going to do this, and I will share once again. Here we go. Does anybody know this woman's name? Anybody love her as much as I do? All right. Maybe she's not as popular with you all. All right, so I'm going to click her, and I'm going to share this quick video here, and we'll do this.
Sometimes when people say, are you guys completely new? No, we're not robots. Journalists are human beings, and I think every human being has, whether it's bias or prejudge or however we're brought up, we have influences in our lives, and we see things differently. The best thing that we do is just, one, acknowledge that we're not all the same. We don't want to be all the same. We want diverse people in the newsroom. But also there be what's fair. I think that's more rational to me, is because as a human, we all have our biases of various things. It can be based on religion, gender, age, worldview, politics, a lot of things. But when you're talking about reporting, hard news reporting, it's what do I know and what can I verify?
Everyone comes to journalism, their work, whatever their work is, with a worldview based on their own life experiences. So the fact that I am a Black woman influences my worldview. The fact that I'm a Southerner influences my worldview. And I think that they can ultimately make reporting richer. But those things, when you're in a place that is a strong journalistic institution, come up against, your editor and your editor's, worldview or unconscious bias. I think what we do for one another is sort of.
So we won't watch this whole video, but it basically says that what we want as humans is to understand that the purpose of journalism and the whole tenet is that journalists do their best to report by using the information that allows them to be as unbiased as possible. So with this resource,
the process is not,
it gives you the tenets about like how they minimize bias, how they work to make sure that bias does not seep into their content, and what they do to mitigate some of that bias by using editors, what kind of checks do they do, and so on. So with that video, and afterwards, I then often have folks, of course, what did you learn about this? And have my students talk about what they learned out of this video using something like a Jamboard. And I'm not going to make everybody use Jamboard today. But what I'll end up doing is thinking about the ways that we as consumers think about our own biases when it comes to reading those headlines. So right at that we did at the beginning, some of those biases that we have come from the source. So you'll see that there was a BuzzFeed piece. You'll see that there was a piece about the Supreme Court, right? All of us have immediate reactions to that. So I am going to ask all of you to pick the headline you think is true out of these three. So is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? All right, so most people think 1. Why do you think 1? Does that one just sound more reasonable than others? Gut feeling. All right. We ask our students this in a lesson as well. So, you know, I guess we can't conceive of what 33 different genders might be. And so we seek to confirm what we believe. And so in this lesson here, what we see is that none of these articles, none of these pieces are true. And what we asked kids to do is just kind of do a quick fact checking. And I asked them to take a look and think about the ways in which, you know, this might fit what they believe, because it's something that is conforming to their tendency to believe the things that they already think could be true. And so there is a whole section that we have about confirmation bias in our news literacy resources and checking and fact thinking. And what we want our students to do is, of course, also consider the fact that some of these resources that they have come across their social media platforms. And what I do is I give an example of, here we have my daughter's TikTok page, Twitter page, and my page. And you'll see that on hers are, we both have a lot of election day resources, but when I do this comparison, you know, the things that you see on my daughter's are things like The Weekend, trending in rap, trending in food, and mine are, you know, trending in the United States, white women, or Elijah Wood. And so we see that there's all kinds of different information that comes across both of our pages. And even though it's the same day, same time, we are both different people, and it's all tailored to each of us. And so I don't know why this piece is not coming up. So those are just the kind of the basic information pieces that we want folks to think about. And we want our students to be able to slow down and self-reflect, to be able to seek the facts and evidence that will help them understand what is true and what is not, consider other people's perspectives, and envision the options that they have. So this kind of goes across all social media content that we do. And especially in the news and media literacy resources, we have a whole set of resources, such as ones that make our students go through the hoaxes and fakes. This is one from grade 9, where we have students understand what is misinformation and how they can use lateral reading as a strategy. And so when it comes to lateral reading, we give them the ability to open up new tabs, like we practice opening new tabs, show them how to do a reverse image search, show them how to seek information outside of the page. And so understanding, you know, what it means to find something outside of that original resource to corroborate their information, right? So that all comes in a lesson about hoaxes and fakes. This one here is seeing believing. This is a 3rd grade lesson about the ways in which we alter photos. I've altered a bunch of photos in here, right? Like I took screenshots of my stuff and for the sake of trying to fit it in, I might have cropped it a little bit, right? And sometimes we crop photos or digitally alter photos or videos. Does it always have to be for nefarious purposes? Of course not, right? So, oh, you've never heard of reverse image search? Oh, well, maybe we'll have to practice. You've never seen this before?
I'm going to hop in and just say that's how you figure out if the people that try to follow you on Facebook are like real people or not, because you can do a reverse image search and find out that their pictures used a million places. Huh.
I use it for any article that I think looks kind of fakey. I pull that image and I do reverse image search.
I learned something new. I'm not important enough to have weird people follow me on Facebook, but if I ever get there, I'll know.
They're not weird people. They're strange men, I think.
Sounds like
anyway,
an short video right there.
And since I interrupted, I am going to drop a link in here. You talked about reverse image search. Just today on Twitter, they're starting to post all the fake pictures coming out of Ukraine. They're not from now, and they're being used for articles. And that reverse image search is what they're using. Verifythis.com is kind of tracking what pictures are real and not real.
I was going to say, like, we also have a whole thing on deep fake. Do you know what deep fake videos are? Are you familiar with that, with deep fakes? So we have a whole lesson about deep fakes. And the main question in it is about how does that affect our democracy, right? What is the ultimate impact upon our democracy if deep fakes are used in our society, right? So that, obviously that's a high school lesson, but if we start at third grade and talk about, altering digital images, and, not necessarily saying it's always good or always bad, but sometimes, we ask the question like, hey, third grader, do you think this lemon is real or fake, right? And it's just for fun, but we're trying to introduce this idea. Sometimes it's more obvious when photos have been altered, and sometimes if you see the cover of a magazine and it has been visually altered, you may not know that, right? This is what Andy Roddick looks like in real life. I don't know if you remember Andy Roddick from a long time ago, tennis player. And this is what he looked like on the cover of Men's Fitness, like that week, right? And so what does that do for the way that we perceive ourselves, the way that we think, society should, view us? Of course, you could probably get into Instagram filters and Snapchat filters and have that whole conversation and understand that sometimes the things that we do for fun, the things that we do, for fun purposes may not always have such, innocent outcomes. And so, all of these lessons are here within the news and media literacy section. And, I just want to, most of the time I end up having folks just kind of look through them, but instead I'm just going to jump out. I just did a very quick overview because to me, I think that news and media literacy is a place to start right now for a lot of perfect. I think
people, that's true.
I believe it. So I'm sure many of us could, I'm trying to unshare, stop my sharing here. So many of us could use the same kind of skills to be able to, to take care of what it is that we're doing, on our end, and making Photoshop and making Zoom recordings edited. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes, and doesn't do any harm. And sometimes it really does do harm. So with all of this, that was my quick and dirty intro to news and media literacy. And I just, I'm going to share some of those resources real quick that came on on the agenda. And what I wanted to do was apply it to, for example, if you were to give your students a foundation, if you are especially a high school teacher, and you gave your students a foundation of what journalism is, you would be, very wise to subscribe to the SIFT, for example. If you're not already familiar with the SIFT, this is, at Common Sense, I don't know if you guys know this, at Common Sense, we collaborate with all kinds of partners. We are not just there to promote our resources or our content. I showed you a video from Facing History and ourselves. This is a newsletter that comes from the News Literacy Project, and it gives you information about hoax news, good and bad, from that week. So they have this thing called the Viral Rumor Rundown that helps you understand, and if you're not familiar with the News Literacy Project, the news of the week, and you can use these examples and lessons with your students every week. So that would be one resource that I would do if I were a teacher, is subscribe to the SIFT. I also found a bunch of verification resources. And of course, today, I found a lesson about the Ukraine crisis. So it is part of our duty and part of our job. This lesson comes from the Choices program at Brown University. I have not gone through this lesson myself, but I thought it was really interesting to see that people are creating content to try to help you sift through some of these resources yourself as teachers and as students. But everything that we have, that we went over today, I just put it all within this document and tried to share it. But the biggest piece that I think is my favorite is this News and Media Literacy Resource Center, where Common Sense has collected resources from all across the web, and they're all free for the most part. There's a news literacy collection, a media literacy collection, and a social and cultural literacy collection that focuses on bias and prejudice, difficult conversations, and so on. But the news literacy one, I think, is one of my favorites, and it breaks it down into this set of content here, on fact checking, on breaking news, for example, mis and disinformation. And it just gives you all kinds of great resources. It's kind of overwhelming because there's so many here, but our favorites are, for example, the SIFT, given a little heart. So this was my like quick digest of arm yourself and pick some skills that your kids might need, that you might need as an educator. So to me, it is not about, being scared to have the conversations. It is about arming everybody and preparing everybody up front and being proactive with just some basic guidelines and some skills. And that way, you are free to have that conversation and bring in those pieces every day of news that you can all practice on together, rather than feeling like you have to be the Wonder Woman with her defensive guards all day long and combating the fake news that comes in from your kids. All right, folks, does anybody have any questions at this point? I'm
Yeah, I
just
like
gonna
those resources you have there on that agenda, Sue.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
All right, here's my complete transparency. The video that I first showed, that did not play where I wanted it to play. And it's a 6-minute video. So that was like the setup. All right, so this is my, I'm sure many of you facilitate PD. That was my setup. And I couldn't remember like where in that video I wanted to play the 1 minute that really gave the thrust of the importance of journalism. I'm sure you guys have been here before. It's like, where was that piece? And then that just like throws it off. So, thanks for bearing with me. You think you got everything.
I thought it was great. We've all been there.
Well, you're a very forgiving crew, but that's your, check your video before you present anything, folks. There you go. I know.
And I was going to put in a quick little anecdote too that the kids might find of interest. So Dean Shareski, are you all familiar with him? He's from Canada. He's been in ed tech forever and ever and ever. I can give you his Twitter feed, but his photo, like his profile photo, has been taken and now shows up on other people's profiles all over the place. And I need to send it to Dean. It happened to me on Instagram. I was scrolling Instagram, and how they show, you hear people you might be interested in following. And I thought, oh, Dean Shareski. But it wasn't Dean Shareski. It was just Dean's picture. And he tries to get it shut down and taken away, but all of that, like the Instagram fake sites, it's just so hard to deal with all of that. But yeah, it just happened yesterday. Or the day before, and I wanted to send it to Dean and said, look, I noticed he has changed his profile picture now from that one. But yeah, it got taken by people and shows up in all kinds of fake accounts. He must look like that's what I meant, Emily, by like the people you see, they're not their real pictures. Yeah, and you don't check in. He looks like a middle-class kind of guy, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you're familiar with the little blue check mark of verification next to some
Right.
of, on Twitter, that, it means that you have a verified account. So maybe Dean is so famous that Dean needs a verification on the account. And so that nobody can fake his.
It is verified now. I noticed when I haven't really searched on just him, but yeah, his account now is, and here it is, I'll give it to you. But yeah, his account now is one of the little blue check marks.
Yeah. And to me, I think the biggest problem that we're having is a lot of students are creating fake accounts, right? And I mean, it's not just about like famous people making fake accounts, right? And then following you, but like our students, it's going on at my kids' school right now, creating a confess account on social media that has become, the drama at my own kids' high school. And I'm sure that's very common when students create fake accounts that are anonymous. And so that's kind of one of the things that we're dealing with right now. And it's hard once it gets rolling. It's so hard to kind of like to combat the attention and the desire to have this negativity and the drama. Like once that starts snowballing in your school, it's so hard to quash it down and turn it the other direction.
In my excuse me, in my school, we use Microsoft Teams, which allows a chat feature, and we're having an interesting issue where, especially in our middle school, we have students that are starting chats with people that don't even necessarily know them and maybe are getting inappropriate, or just kind of benign flirting with strange kids they don't know, but the other kids aren't liking it, and then all the way to very inappropriate. And the administrators kind of, there are some of our administrators that just want to say, take that away from all students, lock it down. And those of us that are instructional technologists are trying to say, this isn't the technology that's the problem. It's that we need to establish the good usage practices. And so one of the things we're doing to address that is we are having our CTE courses at the middle school present the Common Sense Digital Citizenship curriculum right now to try to help promote proper usage so that we can continue to use those tools instructionally in good ways and not just cut them off completely. But it's a challenge.
Well, I think the point that was made earlier in the chat when they were talking about verifying content and about with students, and I think it was Emily, you and Karen both said the adults need it, and that's what we're really finding that we've gone through a lot of things. We've in our school division up here, we've had some schools changed, names changed and stuff, and some of the stuff out there that adults are posting are just unbelievable, and it's just so incorrect. And I have family members that will share something with me with a text. It's like, did you read this and all this? And I was like, and I go, well, look, I'm going to verify that it's really not true. But they right away, as soon as they hear it, they think, oh God, I can't believe they're doing this, or they said that. And so I got to go back. I got to put my ITRC hat on and say, well, let me go out and really verify whether it's true or not. Then I'll share links. Say, look, go to this site and look. And again, like the point, the picture's fake, whatever. And it's just amazing. We really, the adults and we're seeing are just really, it's just really bad. And so it's really hard to, because, the students are home and you're hearing the parents are saying this, showing that. And so they just bring it to the classroom with them. It's just something. So it really, I think it's as much adult education as it is our K-12 kiddos too.
Is there a matter of reaching out to parents? And or is that just like absolutely not? I don't know how realistic it would be to require. Are you thinking about faculty? Are you thinking about?
Well, no, it's more of our community. But I tell you, it's hard to get. And again, anyone else to speak. It's just hard to get parents, guardians to come to events. Like we've had digital safety, expos, and you have like 2, 3. I mean, small amounts show up, and they're usually the ones that don't need it. You know what I'm saying? So what we do is we start serving pizza, and then you start having kids like come and start doing, you tie it in with like shows where at least, parents will come if their kids are performing. And so maybe you get 5 or 10 minutes, like, hey, before the kids start singing and we start serving you pizza, here's 5 minutes about this. That's really the kind of approach. We've actually started something called a Parent Academy, and we've hired a new person that does that. It's our coordinator of our, our community and parent groups. And she's young, and she's like, she goes, Tim, I'm doing these events because I've helped her with some of the technologies, but people really aren't showing up. I said, well, don't take it personally. And, we've kind of given little tips and angles to try to get them and, try to get them to be a captive audience. So, the need's there, but when it comes to get them to show up and, do things, we've had webinars and lunch hour things like that. It's tough to get them there.
One thing that we've tried to do, and that I've been working with some districts around here, is don't try to make parents come to you. You go to the parents.
Right. We've
right.
talked about that. Yep.
So we've talked a lot about like pushing things out through social media, pushing things out through a newsletter. We have a text message service at Common Sense for early education for parents of kids 3 to 8 years old. And it's a text message campaign that goes to those parents because a lot of our parents do not have laptops. They do not have a computer. They do not have a way to receive information except just through text messages on their phones. And so we have a program that allows people to, to receive text messages about ways to interact with their kids and support their kids with, learning and with media, and ways to developmentally, support their kids. So we've started that, but the resource that I just put in the chat was about how does internet advertising contribute to disinformation? And so this one I feel like is good for adults to understand that when you click on a fake headline, that's money in somebody else's pocket. And so like, this is an 11th grade lesson, but it has a video in it that part of it comes from this, an MSNBC or an NBC news article. And it shows these kids in Macedonia who, create for the election, how they got rich, like by creating fake news articles and posting them and using Google AdSense to be able to create that revenue. And so I feel like if people understand why misinformation occurs and how people make money off of it, then I feel like that's one step toward understanding that you're the sucker here.
Yeah, if you teach the students, especially older like that, that understand that they have a problem, they'll have a better opportunity to teach their parents or whatever about these things. If we get them to figure it out, that will definitely help, because their parents will listen to them, because again, they know their kids use it a lot, et cetera.
So Tim, actually a question for you that occurred to me, and the other K-12 folks in the room, and so you probably had experience, but so these things that are posted that are fake, like how much, maybe this is what your community person is doing, but do you feel as a school division, you really need to address all of them, or do you find that that's not useful?
It's not like they're saying things like about our school division like that. There's just, they're bringing up things that might be happening in the community, and they're just totally blowing it out of proportion.
Right.
I'll be honest with it. We when I was mayor here in Strasburg, we usually try not to respond to comments, but we watched it, and like sometimes we had our police chief say, "Look, you got to go in there and say something," because right now people are saying things, and
Right.
especially when it comes to like someone's safety, et cetera. So we actually did in that situation. We haven't had to deal with it too much. It's more just conversations that are happening out there, and like then what happens is, of course, let's say it's a money being spent on something in the school division. Then we will have it at the school board meeting. We'll obviously present that, this is what exactly is spent, et cetera, like that, and explain it to people.
Well, I think, that's the whole whack-a-mole situation. If you're running around trying to combat bad information or trying to kill an app or trying to squash, bad behavior, think about, rather than being reactive, how do we be proactive and establish some guidelines up front and help our parents and give them the skills and the tools that they need. But I don't always want to be, I don't know, is it condescending to say like, you as a parent, you need to learn how to read the news, right? Like, I don't want to do that. Or you as a teacher, I don't want, but if I put it into the disguise of saying, we need to help our students understand how to think critically about the information that they're consuming. Here are some ways that we can do that, right? Like perhaps, put it in that pill and, and see if that works better, rather than I know best, I'm the teacher, and I'm going to teach you, right?
Good point.
I don't know. Well, I don't know what you all have, but to me, I am happy to stick around as long as you all need. I'm happy to answer any questions, social media wise, digital citizenship wise, common sense wise, anything, life, parenting, whatever you want. That is my job.
No, it's been great. So I appreciate
This
it.
is
Again, I
terrific.
always like whenever we have these webinars that we've always gotten good resources, and you've done the same thing tonight with us. So I love that we have a document that we can share out and use ourselves when it comes to PD and everything. And again, common sense education is such a valuable resource. As you saw, we have so many people use it. They're here tonight, and that's one of the first places I go to when it comes to talking about digital citizenship. Also, student data, data privacy, and when it comes to finding resources, y'all's reviews that you all do and everything. So, and again, I appreciate you, joining on the education committee and make sure we have that strong connection with common sense. I really appreciate you presenting tonight, and it was outstanding.
Well, if there's anything I could do for anybody, open invitation all the time.
Great.
You need anything, I'm happy to help out.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
thank-
everyone for coming. I'm going to go ahead and stop